In this lesson, we'll create a swing down animation for the text. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into that leash logo type comp that we created. And this is going to be where we create our swing animation. So I basically want this to look almost like it's a little doggy door that kind of swings down from the top and then has a little bit of that swinging motion until it comes to a stop. So for our letter L, let's go ahead and move our anchor point up using that pan behind anchor point tool so that it's going to be swinging from the top and not rotating from the middle. And we'll go ahead with our letter selected and hit the R key. And let's, on our X rotation property, just rotate this up towards the sky. So that's kind of going to be our starting point. And I'm just going to round that off to a -90 degrees, and we'll set a keyframe. Now let's give it about 10 frames for it to start to swing down. So I'll hold Shift and hit page down. And then I'm going to swing it back to about 30 degrees. So it's going to go about 30 degrees past the point of 0. And then this one is really easy to wrap your head around as far as kind of what those measurements are. So it starts at -90, it goes to +30, and then I love to just cut that in half and add a negative sign and rotate kind of back and forth between negative and positive and cutting the last number in half. But we are only going to do 5 frames for this one because it's a much more slight movement than it coming all the way down from the top when it was at -90. So we'll just go forward 5 frames using the page down key. And then we're going to cut 30 in half, which will be 15. And it's going to be -15 since 30 was positive. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Then let's go forward 5 more frames. We're going to cut that 15 in half, which I'm going to round down to a 7. And so we just won't do a 0.5 in there. You could do a 7.5 if you want, but it'll be positive, not negative this time. Then we'll go forward 5 more frames. And we'll cut that 7 in half, and I'm just going to do a 3 on that, but it will be a -3. And then 5 more. And let's do a 1. And then 5 more, and we'll do a 0. So just kind of cutting it in half or rounding it each time, and you get this sort of a motion where there's almost like just a little bit of follow through there at the end. And I'm going to select all our keys, and let's give that an Easy Ease style keyframe. And then let's just take a look at that letter. Beautiful. So I want to reuse these keys for all my other letters. I just need to go through and move all of their anchor points up to the top. So you can do that pretty quickly just using the pan behind anchor point tool. We don't have a ton of letters to have to deal with. It doesn't really matter if it's right in the middle of the letter because we're only rotating on that x-axis. But if we were going to rotate it, say, on the y-axis, it would make a big difference. Like if you wanted it to swing in more like a regular door, like going from room to room, than a door that's attached at the top, then it would make a big difference for the, if that's centered or off to the side. But in our case, it doesn't really make a big difference. So let's stagger these about 2 frames apart from each other and then just copy and paste the keys that we already made. So I'm going to go forward 2 frames, hit Control-C to copy those keys, select the next one down, and hit Control-V. Now if I hit the U key, you can see that those have been pasted just a little bit ahead of the other ones. And they're highlighted. So you could copy it again, but it's already on your clipboard, so you don't even really need to do that. Now you can just go forward 2 frames with page down and then select your letter A and hit the V key. And there you have it. So I'm just going to quickly go through and paste the rest of these 2 frames apart. And this is the last one. And then let's just take a look at all of those and make sure they look right. Make sure they all received keys. Great. So let's watch this through now. Very nice. So they fall through in a really nice order from left to right to spell out that word. The only thing is that they are a little bit visible previous to their appearance. So you can kind of see over here, you really see those letters. So if you don't like that look, what you can do is just zoom in a little bit and trim the layer to start on the spot where the keyframe, that first keyframe, shows up. So you'll just be kind of going forward 2 frames at a time and positioning it that way, just kind of trimming those down. So that's pretty simple. And it's just going to make it look a little bit cleaner so you don't see those letters sort of stalling there at the top of the comp, just looking kind of like a mistake almost because it's just a little sliver of black. So now you can see that actually makes them look like they're appearing. Great. So now let's jump back out to our leash and bone comp. And I'm going to scrub forward. And then right about here is where I want those to become visible. So I'm just going to grab that comp using my selection tool, pull it forward, and there they are. And this one's probably only going to last, the tail of the dog stops wagging right around 3 seconds, I believe. Let's go in there and make sure all those layers are on actually. So turn on all that visibility. And the dog's tail is still wagging till right about here. So let's just go ahead and shut that off at about 5 seconds. So I'll just go ahead and trim that right there. Perfect. And then now really all we lack is kind of just fine-tuning that camera movement. So let's come back in the next lesson and we'll go ahead and make sure that that looks perfect and that we're not getting any kind of weird kind of sliding motions with that camera.